Welcome to Scoli Sleep Stories. Before we begin, take a moment to get comfortable. Let the day soften around you, and settle in for a calm documentary made for curious minds. If these stories help you rest, learn, or simply enjoy a quieter part of the day, please consider liking this episode and subscribing to the channel. Now, when you are ready, let us begin. Chapter 1: Embarkation at Dusk. Along the quay, the evening lamps have been lit. Their shaded glow falls across porters' carts, trunks, leather cases, and parcels wrapped in brown paper. White baggage labels stir from brass handles whenever a breeze moves in from the harbor. Beyond them, dark water shifts against stone and timber, catching each reflection before breaking it into narrow bands of gold. The quay is the solid waterfront edge where a ship receives passengers, baggage, mail, cargo, provisions, and fuel. Broad enough for carts and wagons to pass between the terminal and the vessel, it is busy, but orderly. Beside it, the ocean liner rises like a long, illuminated building. She is fictional, though formed from familiar features of great transatlantic liners from the 1910s through the mid-20s. Her dark hull stretches more than 800 feet. Rows of portholes and rectangular windows reveal warm light within. High overhead stand boat decks, ventilators, masts, and tall funnels painted in company colors. The funnels carry smoke and hot gases from boiler uptakes deep inside the ship, though their number is not a measure of power. On some vessels, a funnel assisted ventilation or completed a balanced appearance. Tonight they stand quiet against a sky fading from pale blue to gray. The liner can carry several thousand people when passengers and crew are counted together. Perhaps 1,800 travelers will make this crossing, cared for by more than 800 crew members. They work on deck and in engine spaces, cabins, dining rooms, bakeries, pantries, laundries, offices, storerooms, and wireless rooms. The ship is both a transportation machine and a floating hotel. She is expected to cross between Western Europe and New York in 5 or 6 nights when conditions are favorable. Within her hull are bedrooms, lounges, stairways, dining saloons, kitchens, and writing rooms. Chapter 2: Finding the Cabin. The sheltered warmth of the liner closes gently around you. Outside, the evening air carried scents of stone, salt water, and distant smoke. Here the air is still and faintly polished, touched by clean linen, varnished wood, and the warmth of electric lamps. The steward leads you along a broad passage and toward a staircase. A thick runner covers each step, held neatly by brass strips, while a polished handrail curves upward beneath your palm. Although the ship appeared immense from the quay, its interior is divided into smaller spaces. Staircases connect the decks, and corridors branch toward cabins, dining rooms, lounges, service areas, and enclosed promenades. Signs and plans guide passengers, though on the first evening, the arrangement can still seem a quiet puzzle. The steward knows every turning. He walks at an easy pace, pausing while another passenger passes with a coat folded over one arm. Somewhere nearby, a door closes softly. Farther along comes the muted sound of luggage being settled upon a rack. Carpets, curtains, and paneled walls quickly absorb each noise. The corridor narrows. Shaded electric lamps cast warm pools of light across the pale ceiling and polished doors. Each door carries a number, and some have small fittings for messages, notices, or name cards. In the promotional booklets of the period, cabins are often called staterooms. The grander word suggests a chamber in a fine hotel, although most rooms at sea are compact. Space aboard a liner is valuable. Every cabin must fit among structural frames, pipes, ventilation trunks, machinery casings, and neighboring rooms. At last, the steward stops before a door, checks its number, and unlocks it. He steps aside to let you enter. The stateroom is not a splendid suite, nor is it intended to be. It is a comfortable, carefully arranged room for a crossing of several days. A single fixed bedstead stands against one wall, dressed in white linen and covered by a woven blanket. Beside it is a narrow cabinet with a shaded electric lamp. A glass carafe of drinking water and a tumbler rest upon a small tray. The carafe is practical as well as thoughtful. Drinking water can be supplied by the cabin staff rather than drawn from the wash basin tap. When necessary, the carafe can be taken away, rinsed, filled, and returned to its place beside the bed. Opposite the bed is a cushioned sofa. In some staterooms, such a sofa becomes an additional sleeping place. Other cabins contain two fixed bedsteads, or an upper berth that folds against the wall when not required. Arrangements vary with room size, passenger capacity, and class of accommodation. This room is fitted for one traveler, with enough space to move comfortably between its furnishings. You place your smaller case upon a built-in luggage rack, leaving the floor clear. The larger trunk, already brought aboard by the luggage staff, waits at the foot of the bed. It can be pushed beneath the rack, secure and out of the way. Much of the furniture is built directly into the room. A narrow wardrobe occupies one corner, with drawers below for folded garments. Near the porthole stands a small dressing table that can also serve as a writing surface. Its raised edge helps prevent pencils and other small objects from sliding if the ship moves beneath them. You hang your coat inside the wardrobe. The hanger sways once, almost too slightly to notice, and becomes still. You place a book beside a folded sheet of the liner's stationery and transfer a few familiar belongings into the drawers. Each simple action makes the cabin feel less like an assigned number and more like a temporary home. Beside the wardrobe is a compact wash basin with taps and a clean towel. On other vessels or in smaller rooms, the basin might belong to a folding washstand that closes when not in use. Private bathrooms are not standard in most cabins of this period. Even many expensive staterooms depend upon shared bathrooms along the passage, maintained for passengers. Only the finest suites are likely to include private facilities. Shipboard comfort differs from comfort ashore, with every available space carefully measured and assigned. Near the bed is an electric button connected to the steward call system. Pressing it signals that assistance is required. Behind that simple button lies an orderly arrangement of wires, indicator panels, and attentive staff, allowing one steward to care for several cabins without waiting outside any single door. You do not need to press it now. Everything required for the moment is already at hand. A ventilator is set into the wall above you. Fresh air travels through hidden ducts, moved by mechanical fans and sometimes warmed, before entering the passenger accommodation. Other ducts draw stale air from cabins and passages, as well as from lavatories, galleys, and pantries. Ventilation is especially important because not every stateroom opens onto the sea. Some lie within the vessel, surrounded by cabins and service spaces. These interior rooms may receive air and light through shafts, electric lamps, and mechanical ventilation, rather than directly from outside. Your cabin has a round opening in the outer wall. It is commonly called a porthole, though sidelight and side scuttle are also proper nautical terms. Thick glass sits within a sturdy metal frame, with fittings that allow it to be secured firmly. You draw aside the short curtain. Beyond the glass, the harbor has become a field of deep blue. Warehouses and cranes have softened into a low shape beneath the evening sky, while waterfront lamps form a slender chain of gold. The glass reflects part of the room behind you. Pale bed linen, the shaded lamp, and the dark wardrobe hover faintly over the view. Cabin and harbor appear together, one laid gently across the other. Then the liner turns toward open water. Its progress is apparent less as a sway than as a steady continuation. Deep below, the engines maintain their service rhythm, carrying the vessel outward at the even pace of a normal transatlantic passage. In the stateroom, their immense power becomes a low vibration, felt through the floor and bedstead. Cabins in different parts of a liner have different qualities. Those near the bow may feel more of the rising and dipping motion known as pitching. Cabins toward the stern may lie closer to the pulse of propellers or machinery. Rooms near the middle generally experience less pitching because they are closer to the ship's centers of motion. Lower cabins are also nearer those centers and may feel steady, though they often receive less daylight, and some have no direct view of the sea. Higher cabins can offer broader views and easier access to promenade decks, although movement may be more noticeable. No location is perfect. Each offers its own balance of light, quiet, convenience, ventilation, and motion. Across the decks are rooms of different sizes and arrangements, intended for different numbers of travelers and classes of passage. Yet even a modest cabin must make skillful use of limited space. This stateroom lies not far from the ship's middle. Its sounds are subdued. The low vibration of engines, the soft breath of ventilation, and an occasional footstep in the corridor. Now and then, a muted mechanical note comes from beyond the paneling. It is brief and distant, and soon quiet returns. You close the trunk and ease it beneath the luggage rack. The smaller case fits beside it, the drawers are shut, the wardrobe latched, and the book remains within reach. There is room to cross from door to bed without stepping around anything. The cabin's arrangement now makes sense. The luggage rack clears the floor. Built-in drawers require no freestanding chest. The wardrobe occupies only a corner. Wash basin, writing surface, lamp, and call button are all close at hand. Nothing is far away, and this feels reassuring. Outside the porthole, the last harbor blue deepens toward black. A few shore lights remain, small and far behind. The glass darkens until the cabin's reflection becomes clearer than the world outside. You let the curtain fall. The room becomes its own enclosed world, held safely within the larger world of the ship. Beyond its walls are corridors, stairs, dining rooms, pantries, working spaces, and rows of other cabins. Beyond the hull lies the widening sea. Here everything is close, orderly, and still. The bedside lamp casts a steady amber circle. The carafe catches a narrow line of light. Ventilation continues its soft, even breath. Somewhere beyond the wall, another passenger crosses a neighboring room. A latch clicks gently, followed by silence. You sit on the edge of the bed. The mattress yields beneath you, and the engine's vibration becomes easier to notice. It is not a separate sound so much as a quiet foundation beneath all the others. The ship is underway, and every measured turn of its machinery carries the cabin farther from the harbor and into the evening. Already, the room feels familiar. You know where the coat hangs, where the cases are stowed, and where the book waits beneath the lamp. You know the wash basin, call button, and curtain porthole. The space is small enough to understand at a glance, yet comfortable enough to hold everything needed for the night. Then a soft knock sounds at the door. It is neither hurried nor unexpected. The handle turns and the cabin steward appears, ready to begin the quiet evening routine that will prepare this small stateroom for sleep. Chapter 3. The Steward's Quiet Routine. The cabin steward enters with the composed manner of someone who has opened and closed hundreds of cabin doors. His dark uniform is neat, his shoes move softly upon the carpet, and every motion is economical. Nothing is hurried, yet nothing appears to be forgotten. He pauses just inside the room and looks about with a practiced eye. The luggage has already been settled beneath the rack, and the wardrobe door is securely latched. The coat hangs neatly within. The book remains on the writing surface beneath the shaded lamp. Then he crosses to the washstand, where the polished fittings catch the warm amber light. The water carafe is lifted, checked, and replenished. A clean glass is placed beside it. A folded towel, carrying the faint fragrance of mild soap and clean linen, is laid within easy reach. The pillow receives a small adjustment. The blanket is smoothed across the berth, and one corner is turned back with a practiced hand. Fresh linen is an important part of shipboard comfort, although a complete change of sheets should not be assumed every day. The routine depends upon the company, the length of the voyage, and the needs of each cabin. Pillowcases, sheets, towels, and blankets are cared for according to use and established custom. What matters this evening is that everything feels orderly, fresh, and ready. Only a few quiet words are needed. The steward explains when dinner will be served and indicates the simplest route to the dining saloon. If an extra blanket is wanted, one can be brought. If help is needed with a trunk or traveling case, that can also be arranged. Before moving away from the berth, he points to a small button fixed conveniently nearby. This is the call bell. Pressing it does not necessarily produce a loud ring inside the cabin. Instead, somewhere beyond the passenger rooms, an indicator responds. It may display a cabin number, lift a small marker, or illuminate a signal associated with the room. A steward watching the indicator can see where assistance is required. Within the cabin there may be no more than a modest click from the mechanism. Then, after a little while, soft-soled footsteps may approach along the corridor. The system allows help to remain close at hand without disturbing the quiet. Yet behind that simple button lies an orderly network of people, wires, passageways, and established routines. The passenger sees only a polished fitting upon the wall. The crew receives a request among many others, each one to be answered in its proper turn. In many ways, the steward's department aboard an ocean liner resembles the staff of a very large hotel. This hotel, however, is moving steadily across the Atlantic. Its rooms cannot be supplied by a cart arriving from a nearby street. Its towels, soap, drinking water, blankets, stationery, and countless ordinary necessities must already be aboard. They have been counted, stored, and arranged for the days at sea. Cabin stewards and stewardesses clean and air rooms, make berths, replenish water, carry messages, answer call bells, assist with luggage, and guide passengers who have lost their way among the decks. Stewardesses often attend women and children, although duties and assignments vary according to the company and the period. One shipping line may divide the work in one fashion, while another follows a different arrangement. The routines are shaped by tradition, organization, and practical need. The steward checks the fastening of the porthole and makes certain that its curtain hangs properly. He notices the book beneath the lamp and leaves it undisturbed. Personal possessions are treated with care. A brush may be set straight, a garment placed where it will not crease, and a pair of shoes moved neatly beneath a chair. Good service is often visible only through small corrections: a carafe filled, a pillow adjusted, a towel placed beside the washstand. Each task is simple in itself, but together they give the room a sense of calm readiness. The steward steps back and surveys the cabin once more. Beyond the door, the main corridor remains peaceful. Behind its paneled walls, however, the work of the liner continues through a second, less visible geography. Crew passages run behind or beside the passenger spaces. Service stairs connect one deck to another without crossing the grand public rooms. Linen rooms hold shelves of folded cloth. Storerooms contain carefully arranged supplies. Pantries keep cups, glasses, trays, and simple refreshments near the places where they are needed. On larger liners, service lifts carry goods between levels, saving many journeys up and down the stairs. These working spaces are plain compared with the rooms intended for passengers. Their purpose is not display, but order and efficiency. Every shelf, cupboard, and passage has a function. Towels are stacked according to size. Sheets are counted and stored. Soap is kept dry. Trays wait in rows. Messages are sorted. Indicators are watched, and requests pass quietly from one department to another. Most of this careful activity remains out of sight. The cabin steward is only one person within a broad hospitality staff. Elsewhere aboard are dining room waiters, cooks, bakers, pantry workers, dishwashers, lift operators, barbers, musicians, interpreters, and bellboys. Some passengers may never see many of these workers, although their labor shapes nearly every hour of the crossing. A large liner may carry several hundred crew members. The greatest ships can employ around 1,000. Not all of them work in passenger service, of course. Many attend to the engines, navigation, communications, cargo, and maintenance. Still, a substantial number belong to the departments that prepare meals, care for cabins, tend public rooms, and keep the floating hotel in order. Their hours are long and carefully structured. The work begins before many passengers appear in the corridors and continues after the public rooms have emptied. A steward may carry water, lift luggage, make many berths, answer repeated calls, and walk long distances through the ship during the course of a day. The comfort visible to passengers depends upon skilled and tiring labor, much of it performed behind ordinary doors. Its quiet appearance should not make the effort seem effortless. The calm is the result of experience, coordination, and many people completing familiar tasks in the correct sequence. Nor is shipboard service identical throughout the vessel. Passenger classes have different accommodations, dining rooms, and levels of attention. A spacious suite on an upper deck may receive amenities unavailable in a simpler cabin elsewhere. In less expensive sections, cabins may be smaller and more passengers may share certain facilities. The number of stewards assigned and the services available can also differ. The liner is one vessel, but within it are several distinct experiences of ocean travel. Order matters in every part of the ship. Corridors must remain clear, water must be supplied, rooms must be cleaned and aired, passengers must be directed through unfamiliar passageways, luggage must be moved carefully, messages must reach the correct recipient. Whether a cabin is spacious or modest, it belongs to the larger pattern of the vessel. That pattern is maintained through countless small tasks, repeated from morning until night. From somewhere beyond the paneling comes a tiny mechanical click. It may be the indicator board responding to another cabin. Perhaps a passenger has requested water, asked for directions, or discovered the need for an extra blanket. A moment later, soft footsteps pass the door and continue along the corridor. Their sound grows fainter, then disappears. Inside the cabin, the steward makes one final inspection. The glass stands beside the carafe. The towel lies evenly folded, the blanket is smooth, and the turned corner of the berth waits for the later hour when the public rooms have gone quiet. The steward gives a courteous nod. He mentions that the main stairway lies to the right, and that the promenade deck can be reached by continuing upward. Then he steps back into the corridor. The door is drawn almost closed before the latch meets its fitting with a gentle sound. For a moment, the cabin seems even quieter than before. Clean linen rests smoothly beneath the amber light. The glass beside the carafe is perfectly still. Mild soap lends a barely noticeable freshness to the air, mingling with the scent of polished wood and the soft breath of ventilation. Beneath it all, the steady vibration of the engines continues through the floor. It connects this private room with the immense machinery far below, and with the long course of the liner across the evening sea. Outside, the steward's footsteps retreat. Soon he may turn into a service passage, answer another indicator, assist with a case, or prepare another cabin with the same attentive care. His work disappears behind an ordinary door and returns to the hidden world of linen shelves, supply cupboards, pantries, stairways, lifts, and bells. For the passenger, the result is simple. Water is waiting, the berth is smooth, the room is ready. Your own door remains closed for only a little while longer. Dinner is still ahead, and there is time for a walk before entering the dining saloon. Beyond the cabin, the main corridor leads toward a staircase. The lamps cast quiet pools of light upon the polished wood, and the low vibration of the engines follows beneath every step. The staircase rises toward the upper decks. At its head waits an outer door. Beyond it lies the cooler air of the promenade, the darkening sky. Chapter 4. Promenading before dinner. The staircase rises gently through the liner's upper decks. Each landing is marked by a softly shaded lamp and a small brass plate. At the top, the carpet ends beside a polished threshold. Beyond it stands the outer door, set within a heavy frame made to close firmly against wind and weather. When the door opens, the change is immediate. Cool air slips around you, fresh with salt and carrying the clean scent of damp wood. The evening is calm, so the breeze is not harsh. Still, it has a firmness that was absent from the sheltered corridors. The ship is moving steadily through the water, and its forward motion creates an airflow of its own. This joins with the natural wind over the sea to form what is known as the apparent wind, the wind as it feels aboard a moving vessel. Even in quiet weather, an exposed North Atlantic deck can feel cold when a liner is traveling at around 20 knots. The air presses gently against your coat and stirs at your collar. Behind you, the outer door closes with a muted sound. The warmer interior becomes a row of amber windows set into the long deckhouse wall. Ahead lies the promenade. Its planks are slightly darkened by the evening damp, and the surface has been scrubbed clean. Teak and other durable woods were often used for exposed decks and fittings, because they could withstand salt water and changing weather. Materials varied from ship to ship, but every open deck required regular care from the crew. The promenade is not simply a hotel terrace placed upon the sea. It is shaped by the practical needs of a working vessel. In some places it is broad and open. In others it narrows around deck fittings and companionways. Rails line the outer edge. Ventilators rise at intervals, their curved openings gathering fresh air or releasing warm air from below. There are skylights, stairways leading down into the ship, and covered pieces of deck machinery. High above the promenade, beneath the fading sky, rest the pale hulls of lifeboats. The boats are carried on the upper decks beneath davits, the strong arms used to hold and move them. Between the boat stations, wide portions of the deck remain clear for walking. Everything is arranged with purpose. The working parts of the vessel and the comfortable spaces for passengers exist side by side. Near the deckhouse wall stands a line of wooden deck chairs. Some are turned toward the sea, others face slightly aft, allowing their occupants to watch the water passing behind the liner. A folded blanket rests across one chair. Another stands ready beside a small table where someone has left a closed book. A passenger adjusts a footrest with a quiet wooden click. Farther along, two people speak in low voices, though their words are carried away by the breeze. A door opens, releasing a brief glow of interior light. Footsteps approach along the damp boards. They pass without hurry and fade into the sheltered section of the deck. Somewhere nearby, a ventilator gives out a low, continuous breath. Promenade decks could take several forms. Some were fully open to the sea air, others were partly sheltered beneath an overhanging deck. Enclosed sections protected by windows allowed passengers to walk when the weather was cold or wet. Large liners often provided both exposed and protected areas, giving passengers a choice between open air and shelter. Open-air spaces could also be divided among the different passenger classes. First-class travelers might have a broad and carefully furnished promenade, but taking the air was not limited to them. Second-class and third-class passengers could have designated deck spaces of their own. Across the ship, people walked, rested, read, talked quietly, and watched the horizon. At sea, a promenade served an especially useful purpose. During the long days between ports, there were no streets to explore, and no country paths beyond the gangway. For a time, the liner became the landscape of daily life. A measured circuit around the deck provided gentle exercise and gave shape to the passing hours. Some passengers counted their rounds, others walked without keeping track, turning at a bulkhead or continuing around a sheltered end when the design of the vessel allowed. The regular pace suited the steady progress of the ship beneath them. You begin along the deck at an easy walk. Close to the deckhouse wall, the air feels gentler. Near the rail, it presses more firmly against you. One hand comes to rest upon the railing. The metal feels smooth and cool beneath your palm. Beyond it, the sea lies in long, dark folds, reflecting the last light of evening. The western sky still holds a narrow band of muted gold. Above it comes a pale wash of green, and then blue, deepening gradually toward the east. Sea and sky meet at a distant, unbroken line. From here, the horizon appears perfectly still, although the ship and the water are always moving. Above the deckhouse rise the liner's funnels. Their size gives them a commanding presence, but their number does not directly reveal the power of the engines below. The funnels carry boiler smoke and gases upward, away from decks and public rooms. Their arrangement depends upon the design of the vessel and the spaces hidden beneath its decks. Only a faint trace of smoke can be seen this evening. The airflow carries it astern, and it thins into the gathering dusk. You pass beneath one of the lifeboats. Its hull is painted neatly, and its cover is secured against sea air and damp. Boat fittings rest in careful order nearby. Nothing appears hurried or out of place. These practical details keep the promenade from feeling too formal. The deck belongs to passengers enjoying an evening walk, but it also remains part of a working ship. Rails, ventilators, skylights, companionways, machinery, lifeboats, and davits all share the space. A chair is moved softly against the deckhouse wall. Someone turns a page beneath the light from a nearby window. Another passenger stands at the rail, looking outward without speaking. As you continue aft, the breeze begins to ease. The promenade widens, and the view behind the liner opens fully. There is the wake. It begins close beneath the stern as a restless mixture of foam and dark water. The moving hull has pushed the sea aside, while the propellers, turning below the surface, have stirred it into curling paths. Together they leave a disturbed trail stretching far behind the vessel. Near the ship, the wake is pale and broken. Patches of foam gather and separate. Farther back, the brightness softens into a long band of swirling gray. Beyond that, it becomes only a subtle change in the texture of the water before merging with the evening sea. In the low light, certain folds appear almost luminous. They catch what remains of the sky and hold it for a moment. Yet the wake is not a fixed white road. It changes from one second to the next. Dark water closes over pale foam. Small whirls turn and disappear. New patterns form where the disturbed water rises toward the surface. The entire trail seems to breathe and shift, marking the liner's passage without ever holding one shape for long. The shoreline has vanished now. There are no harbor lamps behind the ship, and no buildings gathered at the edge of the land. The liner is between ports, carrying its own lights, warmth, provisions, passengers, crew, and daily routines into the open Atlantic. For a while, you remain by the rail. The muted vibration of the engines can still be felt through the deck. It is the same steady pulse that followed you through the cabin and corridor, though here it mingles with the low wash of water against the hull. At first, It might be mistaken for a distant light reflected in one of the deckhouse windows, but it remains when you change your position. It is small and steady in the deepening blue. A little later, another star becomes visible higher overhead. Then a third emerges beyond the dark outline of a funnel. The stars arrive quietly, one at a time, as the final daylight recedes around them. The sky does not change all at once. Its colors deepen gradually, and each point of light seems to wait until the proper moment before becoming clear. Along the promenade, passengers are beginning to turn toward the interior. A chair is folded and placed neatly against the wall. Someone draws a blanket closer before rising. A book is closed. Footsteps move toward the nearest door. Through the windows, the ship's lamps appear warmer than they did only a few minutes ago. Their amber shades illuminate polished wood, framed mirrors, and the edges of carpeted passages. Seen from the cool deck, those sheltered rooms seem especially inviting. The cold has settled more noticeably around your hands and face. It remains pleasant, though it encourages you to keep moving. You take one more slow turn beside the rail, passing damp deck boards, folded blankets, silent lifeboats, and chairs waiting for another day at sea. Behind you, the wait continues into the darkness. Ahead, the interior lights shine through the windows. From somewhere within the ship comes a soft signal, announcing the approach of dinner. It is not loud enough to disturb the evening. It simply joins the engine vibration, the distant ventilation, and the quiet wash of water along the hull. Doors open along the deckhouse. Passengers enter in twos and threes, carrying a little of the Atlantic coolness into the warm corridors. Their conversations remain low, and their footsteps soon soften upon the parpet. You follow at an unhurried pace. The outer door closes behind you, and the breeze becomes a faint sound beyond the glass. Shaded lamps lead toward the staircase, their gentle pools of light returning you to the sheltered interior. Farther below, the dining saloon is ready. Its tables have been laid beneath a warm glow, while outside, unseen beyond the windows, the liner continues steadily through the gathering night. Chapter 5. The Grand Dining Room. The staircase descends from the promenade deck in broad, carpeted turns. After the cool Atlantic breeze, the interior air feels pleasantly warm. Passengers move quietly through polished corridors, carrying with them a faint trace of the night air. Coats are left in cloakrooms, gloves are folded and slipped into pockets. Near the final landing, a steward offers directions with a small inclination of the head. Below, a pair of paneled doors opens into the grand dining saloon. Dining saloon was the period name often given to such a room. Their dining room describes it just as well. This one is broad and high-ceilinged, designed to feel spacious despite its place within a steel hull. Pale columns divide the room into graceful sections. Between them are painted panels, polished wood, and large sidelights that now reflect the warm interior rather than the dark sea beyond. A shallow well in the ceiling lends the central part of the saloon a little more height. Electric chandeliers cast a gentle glow from above, while shaded wall lamps soften the corners. Nothing is too bright. The room is elegant but not overwhelming. Its beauty lies in balance, warmth, and order. Tables stand at regular intervals beneath white linen cloths. Each place is arranged with company-marked china, clear glassware, folded napkins, and silver-plated cutlery. The shipping company's crest appears discreetly on plates and cups, a reminder that every object belongs to the floating world of the liner. Water catches the lamplight in slender glasses, bread waits in covered baskets. Low vases hold a few flowers, bringing a quiet touch of the shore into a room already far out at sea. Dining saloons differed from ship to ship. Some were decorated with dark carved wood, while others used lighter painted paneling. Some had skylights or deep ceiling wells. Others relied upon large sidelights, chandeliers, and shaded lamps. No single room represented every liner, for each vessel had its own arrangement and character. The furniture varied as well. On some earlier ships, chairs were fixed to the deck or mounted upon swiveling bases, keeping them securely in place as the vessel moved. Loose chairs became more common over time, although the practice depended upon the ship and the date. Here the chairs are movable but sturdy, resting firmly upon the carpet. The sea is calm tonight. Only the mildest motion passes through the room. Now and then, it can be seen in the surface of a water glass, where the reflection of a lamp shifts almost imperceptibly. Beneath everything is the familiar engine vibration, even and subdued. It feels less like a sound than another pulse within the ship. A waiter consults a small table plan and guides you toward an assigned place. Passengers might keep the same table throughout the voyage, with arrangements commonly managed through the purser's office or the chief steward's department. This reduced confusion and allowed the dining room staff to recognize familiar faces. After the first evening, the people gathered around a table would no longer seem entirely unknown. Not every dining saloon could accommodate all its passengers at once. When necessary, meals were arranged in 2 sittings, with one group dining after another. This was common, though not universal. A gong, a bell, or on some liners, a brief bugle call might announce that it was time to dine. The signal this evening has been discreet. It carried through the corridors without disturbing the calm of the voyage, joining the distant engines and the wash of water along the hull. You take your seat. Around the room, conversation settles into a low, blended murmur. No single voice rises above the others. There is the faint movement of chairs, the soft placement of a spoon beside a bowl, and the quiet tread of waiters crossing the carpet. Some passengers have dressed formally, as custom often encouraged in first class. Dark jackets and evening gowns add to the composed appearance of the room. Yet not every passenger wore the most formal evening clothing each night. Habits depended upon the ship, the route, the date, and the individual. The familiar image of universal formality was never quite the whole picture, nor does this luminous saloon represent the whole vessel. Elsewhere aboard are other dining rooms, separated according to the class divisions that shaped ocean travel in this period. Second-class passengers have their own saloon and their own organized service. Third-class travelers dine in plainer rooms, often at long, shared tables. Their principal cooked meal may be served around midday, while wealthier passengers treat the evening meal as dinner. The surroundings, menus, and degree of attention can differ greatly. Even so, every dining room depends upon a broad network of kitchens, stores, schedules, and crew labor. Throughout the ship, meals are prepared and served according to a careful routine. Here, dinner begins with bread and warm soup. The food arrives without hurry. A waiter serves one side of the table, moves onward, and returns at the proper moment. Nearby, a head waiter observes the room as a whole, noticing which tables are ready for another dish and where a place must be quietly reset. The staff visible to passengers forms only one part of a much larger organization. Beyond the service doors, pantry workers prepare trays and arrange china. Plate washers maintain a steady supply of clean dishes. In the galleys, cooks and specialists work with bread, meat, fish, soups, sauces, pastry, and vegetables. This division of labor allows hundreds of people, and on the largest liners many more, to be fed each day. The task is considerable, yet from the dining saloon it appears effortless. Plates arrive, cups are filled, empty dishes depart. Each movement fits smoothly into the next. The meal continues with simple care. The soup is followed by vegetables and a modest main dish. Tea is poured from a shining pot, and its steam rises briefly into the warm light. Later comes a small dessert. Cups and saucers touch the linen with only the lightest sound. Printed menus rest near some of the place settings. They serve as guides to the meal, but passengers may also keep them as souvenirs. Music programs and other printed notices are often saved as well, slipped between the pages of a book and carried home after the crossing. Some large liners have their own print rooms, where menus, programs, and daily notices can be produced aboard. Even in the middle of the Atlantic, the ship creates a paper record of its passing days. Subdued music drifts through the saloon. It does not demand attention. It simply fills the spaces between conversations, mingling with the small sounds of service. The melodies remain measured, while the waiters follow familiar paths between the tables and paneled doors. Beyond the sidelights lies the open Atlantic. From most seats, the glass offers only a dark reflection of columns, lamps, and white-covered tables. At certain moments, however, a pale trace of foam appears outside. Then it is gone, and the saloon seems once more like a sheltered room on land. Yet the steady vibration beneath the floor tells a different story. The whole chamber is moving westward through the night. Its chandeliers, Carved panels, silver-plated service, and quiet company are being carried together across the sea. As the evening continues, the room gradually grows quieter. Early arrivals finish first, chairs draw back, and passengers leave in small groups, perhaps for the lounge, the library, or a short walk beneath the stars. At the empty tables, waiters clear each place with practiced economy. Glasses are lifted, cups disappear onto trays, crumbs are gathered from the linen, used napkins are folded aside. No movement is hurried, and no task seems to interrupt the calm. The flowers remain beneath the warm lamps. A few pieces of company-marked china still wait to be removed. Conversation thins until it is little more than a soft murmur near the far side of the room. At last, only a handful of passengers remain. Tea pools in the final cups. The music comes gently to an end. One waiter crosses the carpet with a balanced tray, then pauses beside an unobtrusive paneled door. When the door opens, it reveals no sudden confusion. Beyond it lies another part of the liner's orderly world. There are shelves, counters, service passages, and the entrances to rooms that most passengers rarely see. The last plates pass out of the grand saloon and into a pantry. From there they will continue along a carefully planned route through lifts, washing rooms, food stores, and kitchens. You rise and follow at a respectful distance, leaving the fading murmur of the dining room behind. The service door closes softly. The polished public room recedes, and just beyond it begin the hidden spaces that prepare, carry, clear, and replenish all that the ship requires. Chapter 6. Galleys, Pantries, and Provisioning. Beyond the paneled door, the atmosphere changes by gentle degrees. The carpet of the dining saloon gives way to a smooth, practical floor. Decorative woodwork becomes pale tile and painted metal, surfaces chosen because they can be cleaned easily. The shaded glow of chandeliers is replaced by clear working lamps. Yet the same sense of careful order remains. You pause at the edge of the service passage, accompanied by a steward who knows the proper route. Passengers would not ordinarily wander through these working quarters. The passages belong to cooks, waiters, pantry staff, bakers, storekeepers, and cleaners. Each person moves according to an established pattern. From this respectful distance, however, you may take a quiet, guided glimpse into the system that has carried dinner from the ship's stores to the tables. The first room is a pantry adjoining the dining saloon. It is not quite a kitchen and not quite a storeroom. Instead, it forms an intermediate place between cooking and serving, where the final details of a meal are arranged. Along one counter, cups settle into rows upon their saucers. At another, a steward pours the last hot water of the dinner service into a silver pot. Shelves hold glassware, folded cloths, serving dishes, and the small utensils needed close at hand. Here dishes may be assembled before entering the dining room. Beverages are prepared. Cold items are kept cool, while warm dishes are held at a suitable temperature until a waiter is ready to collect them. The pantry prevents the working galley from opening directly onto the elegant public room. It also shortens the distance between food and table, allowing service to proceed smoothly even when many passengers dine at once. A brass bell sounds once, softly. Nearby, a service lift comes to rest. Its door slides open, revealing several empty trays and a rack of used dishes. Such lifts connect dining rooms and pantries with working areas on other decks. Without them, stewards would have to carry every platter, cup, and tray along stairways that might already be busy. The lift does not remove the need for careful hands, but it makes the work more direct. A member of the pantry staff wheels the rack aside, closes the little gate, and sends the lift away again. Farther along lies the scullery, where dishes and cookware are washed. Water runs into deep sinks, plates are sorted, cups are placed carefully in racks, and metal pans wait in an orderly line. Steam hangs lightly near the ceiling before the ventilation fans draw it away. The work is neither silent nor effortless. There is the steady sound of water, the muted meeting of china, and the gentle scrape of a brush against a pan. Yet the busiest hour has passed, and the remaining tasks have taken on a measured rhythm. Steam and hot water are as important here as they are in the cooking spaces. They help with cleaning, cooking, and warming food. They keep utensils, dishes, and work surfaces ready for the next service. On a large liner, washing continues throughout the day. Breakfast things are cleared before luncheon. Luncheon gives way to tea. Tea is followed by dinner. Then the dinner dishes must be cleaned and returned to their places before morning begins the cycle once more. Beyond the scullery, a wider passage leads toward the galleys themselves. A large liner does not depend upon one enormous open kitchen of the modern kind. Its food service spaces are divided by purpose and linked like rooms in a carefully planned workshop. The galleys are used for cooking. Nearby rooms may be devoted to baking, meat preparation, vegetables, cold dishes, or stores. This arrangement keeps each kind of work in its proper place. It also allows heat, moisture, tools, and supplies to be managed more carefully. From the doorway of one galley comes the warmth of ranges and hot plates. The air carries traces of stock, baked crust, tea, and clean steam. Cooks in white jackets finish the last tasks of dinner. One covers a pan, another checks a warming cupboard, a third wipes a broad work table that has already been cleared. Period liners could use electrical equipment that would have seemed impressively modern. Electric dough mixers spared bakers some of the heaviest handwork. Potato peelers, mincers, hot plates, and knife cleaning equipment assisted with repeated tasks. Electrical power also ran ventilation fans and the refrigeration machinery elsewhere in the ship. Even with these machines, skill remained essential. A mixer could turn dough, but a baker still judged its texture. A hot plate could provide steady heat, but a cook still watched the food. A potato peeler could speed the work, yet someone still had to inspect and prepare what came from it. Machinery supported trained hands. It did not replace them. The bakery is quieter now. Loaves rest on open racks, their crusts cooling in the clean air. Flour has been swept from the floor, though a faint pale dust remains near the corners of a work table. Mixing bowls stand ready for washing. Before many passengers rise, the bakery will be active again, preparing bread and rolls for breakfast and for the meals that follow. For now there is only the mild scent of cooling bread and the soft settling of metal trays upon their shelves. Nearby are rooms for vegetables and meat preparation. These are practical spaces with sturdy tables, sinks, scales, bins, and easily cleaned walls. Much of tomorrow's work has not yet begun, but certain preparations can be made in advance. Vegetables are inspected and set in order, tools are cleaned, supplies are counted, nothing useful is left uncovered or misplaced. The stores extend deeper into the ship. Dry goods rooms hold durable provisions that travel well. Flour, sugar, tea, coffee, dried fruit, grains, tins, spices, and other staples may be carried in substantial quantities. They are arranged so storekeepers can keep an accurate record of what remains and use supplies in a sensible order. Perishable foods require colder quarters. The liner's refrigerated provision chambers are substantial for their era, although they are not simply one enormous version of a modern household refrigerator. Instead, they form a collection of separate insulated rooms. Refrigeration machinery serves these compartments and maintains conditions suited to their contents. Meat and poultry may occupy one chamber, with fish in another. Dairy goods are kept apart. Fruit, vegetables, beverages, and other perishables have suitable spaces of their own. Not every item benefits from the same degree of cold. Some foods need to be chilled, while others must be protected from freezing. Separating the stores also helps preserve cleanliness and prevents one kind of food from affecting another. Heavy insulated doors remain closed except when supplies are brought in or removed. Behind them, shelves and racks hold provisions that will later appear in forms passengers may never connect with these quiet chambers. There will be milk poured into a breakfast cup, fruit set upon a plate, butter beside a warm roll, and vegetables carried into the dining room beneath a covered dish. Many fresh provisions were loaded at the home port before departure. Choosing and storing them required careful planning. The expected length of the voyage had to be considered, along with the number of passengers and the size of the crew. Allowance was made for possible delays and for spoilage, even with the benefit of refrigeration. Planners also accounted for distinctions between the menus provided in different classes. Durable staples could be carried in large quantities, but fresh goods needed more careful attention. Storekeepers recorded what entered the provision rooms and what was issued to the kitchens. Cooks and pantry staff depended upon those records and upon the orderly arrangement of the stores. The crew had to be fed as well as the passengers. Officers, sailors, engineers, stewards, cooks, cleaners, and many others took their meals according to their watches and working hours. Crew dining spaces, commonly called messes, followed their own schedules. A crew member finishing a night watch might eat at an hour when the passenger dining room was closed. Someone beginning work before dawn would need a meal while most cabins were still dark. For this reason, the ship's kitchens did not follow one simple timetable. Somewhere in the food service spaces, preparations were nearly always beginning or ending. Now, as the last of dinner is cleared, a storekeeper records what has been issued. A cook considers what will be needed at dawn. Clean cups return to shelves. Cloths are hung to dry. In the scullery, the flow of water diminishes, and the final pans are set upside down in their racks. The immense work of feeding the liner becomes less visible again. Counters are wiped. Cold room doors are checked. Dry stores are secured against the mild movement of the sea. Ingredients for breakfast are brought to the proper places, while everything else is covered, counted, and left in order. One last service lift descends with empty trays. After a pause, it rises again, carrying clean cups and folded linen toward the passenger decks. Its mechanism hums, slows, and settles into silence. You turn back along the tiled passage. Behind you, bread cools upon its racks. Refrigeration machinery continues its low, even labor. Somewhere in the scullery, a tap releases a final thread of water into a deep sink. The bakery scent fades as a door closes softly. Ahead, the clear working lamps give way once more to shaded light and polished wood. The practical rooms recede behind you, though their quiet routines will continue through the night. Beyond the service corridor wait the gentler rooms of the evening. There are upholstered chairs and books beneath reading lamps, blank stationery for letters, card tables prepared for unhurried games, and music played softly enough to mingle with the steady movement of the ship. Chapter 7. Lounges, Libraries, and Evening Music. The practical brightness of the service passage falls away behind you. Ahead, the light is warmer and more carefully shaded. It rests upon polished panels, brass handles, and a thick carpet patterned in deep blue and muted gold. The sounds of the galley have faded almost entirely. In their place come smaller, gentler sounds. A page turns, a pen moves across paper, a chair shifts softly upon the carpet. From somewhere beyond a partly closed door come the measured notes of a piano. A transatlantic liner is more than a means of crossing the ocean. For several days, it must also serve as a hotel, a meeting place, a reading room, and a small social world. Its passengers cannot step out into a city street or visit a theater ashore. The comforts and diversions of the voyage must be gathered within the ship's steel hull and arranged across its many decks. Large liners sometimes offered an impressive variety of public rooms. There might be a lounge, a library and writing room, a smoking room, a card room, a reception room, or even a winter garden, furnished with wicker chairs and potted plants. An enclosed veranda could give passengers a sheltered place to enjoy daylight when the open decks were cool. Music rooms and drawing rooms offered quieter surroundings after dinner. Not every ship possessed every fashionable kind of room. The arrangement depended upon the vessel, its size, and the passenger class being served. On this composite liner, the selection is comfortable but modest. There is a principal lounge, a combined library and writing room, a small card room, and a smoking room farther aft. Together they provide several kinds of evening, all unfolding at an unhurried pace. You enter the library first. Built-in bookcases line the walls. Narrow brass rails secure the shelves, helping the volumes remain in place with the mild movement of the ship. The collection is not vast, but it is varied. There are novels, books of travel, biographies, histories, collections of poetry, and a few reference works. Some bear the shipping company's crest inside their covers. They have crossed the Atlantic many times, passing quietly from passenger to passenger. Upholstered armchairs stand beneath reading lamps with green glass shades. One passenger sits with a book open upon one knee. Another studies an illustrated magazine. Their concentration creates a stillness around them, as though each pool of lamplight were a small private island. Along the far wall are writing desks. Each has a blotting pad, an inkwell, and a rack containing envelopes and sheets of company stationery. Picture postcards show the liner at sea, its funnels rising above the long decks beneath a bright and orderly sky. Several passengers are writing letters. Their pens move steadily, pausing now and then while a sentence is considered. A letter composed during the crossing usually cannot be posted until the ship reaches its next port. Still, there is pleasure in recording an experience while it remains fresh. The pages gather impressions of departure, dinner aboard, the color of the sea, and the curious feeling of living for a time between two continents. Some liners carry official mail as well as passengers and cargo. Such ships may maintain a post office aboard, where postal clerks sort sacks of letters and prepare them to continue their journeys after arrival. The private pages being written here may eventually join that greater current of paper, stamps, addresses, and news moving from one shore to another. At one desk, a diary lies open. Only a few lines have been added this evening. Diary writing suits the settled pattern of a voyage. There are meals, walks, games, music, weather, and the changing appearance of the water. Even a quiet day offers something worth recording. A few sentences can preserve the particular feeling of an evening that might otherwise blend gently into all the others. Beside the doorway, a small printed bulletin has been pinned to a board. It contains a few items of news received through wireless telegraphy. The wireless operator sends and receives coded signals, communicating with shore stations and other ships across remarkable distances. This is not passenger broadcast radio in the later sense. There are no regular spoken programs flowing from receivers in every public room. Instead, messages travel as patterns of electrical signals. Trained operators interpret them and write them down. From such brief reports, a liner may prepare a small shipboard newspaper or bulletin, offering passengers a narrow window upon events beyond the horizon. You pass from the library into the principal lounge. Its decoration borrows something from a grand house and something from a fashionable hotel. Public rooms at sea often drew upon familiar European architectural styles, surrounding travelers with a sense of elegance and order. Carved wood frames the doorways. Plaster ornament traces quiet patterns across the ceiling. Heavy curtains soften the windows, although beyond the glass there is now only darkness and the occasional reflection of an interior lamp. The room is gently occupied. At a low table, two passengers place chess pieces upon a board. Each move is made without haste. Nearby, a small group sits in quiet conversation. Their words remain indistinct, rising and falling beneath the music. At the far end of the lounge, a pianist plays with a violinist beside him. Some larger liners employ professional musicians, though not every vessel carries a full orchestra. A small ensemble is enough for this peaceful evening. The program has included a light classical piece, a familiar popular melody, and a graceful dance tune. At other times, musicians might play marches, popular songs, or accompany a concert arranged for the passengers. Tonight, no one is dancing. The music simply fills the room and gives shape to the pauses in conversation. The violin carries the melody, while the piano provides a calm foundation beneath it. The ship's mild movement seems to enter the rhythm, though the musicians scarcely appear to notice. During a long crossing, passengers find many ways to pass the hours. There may be cards, chess, reading, concerts, dancing, deck games, diary writing, or conversation with people who were strangers at embarkation. The voyage creates its own temporary society. For a few days, the same faces appear at breakfast, along the promenade, and beneath the lamps each evening. Beyond the lounge is the small card room. Its tables are fitted for unhurried games, and the chairs are placed close enough for conversation to remain quiet. A pack of cards rests beside a score pad. At another table, a chessboard has already been returned to its box, but the evening is plainly drawing toward its close. Farther aft lies the smoking room, historically associated with male passengers, just as drawing rooms and writing rooms were often associated with women. Such descriptions reflected the social customs of the period, though actual use could be more varied than those labels suggest. Different ships developed different habits, and the names of rooms did not always describe every person who entered them. The smoking room has darker furnishings than the library. Leather chairs stand beside sturdy tables, and wooden paneling gives the room a sheltered appearance. A card game is nearing its end. Counters are gathered without ceremony, and a folded newspaper is tucked beneath one passenger's arm. You do not remain long. The piano, heard now through several walls and doorways, has become softer. Its melody has been reduced to a few rounded notes, rising briefly and then dissolving into the carpeted corridor. When you return toward the library, the evening has begun to thin. A steward straightens an armchair and collects an abandoned cup. One of the green reading lamps is switched off. After a little while, another follows. The unlit desks seem to withdraw into the quiet paneling, while a final letter is folded carefully and slipped into its envelope. A passenger replaces a book behind the brass rail. Another closes a diary and rests one hand upon its cover before carrying it away. The company postcards remain in their rack, showing the liner forever crossing a bright painted sea. In the lounge, the violinist lowers his instrument. The pianist completes the final phrase and allows the closing chord to fade naturally. There is gentle applause, brief and warm. Music sheets are gathered and placed in order. The musicians prepare to leave, and chairs once occupied by listeners stand empty beneath the shaded lamps. Doors close softly along the corridor. Footsteps pass toward the cabins and gradually become fewer. The card room is dark now. The bulletin remains upon its board, carrying its small portion of distant news. Behind the glass doors of the library, rows of books wait undisturbed for morning. One by one, the public rooms settle. Their decorative details soften as the lamps are lowered. Tables, curtains, desks, and high-backed chairs remain only as quiet outlines in the dimness. The last notes of music have vanished, yet the silence is not complete. Beneath the carpet and beneath the polished floorboards, another rhythm remains. It is too steady to be music and too deep to belong to footsteps. It has been present through every letter, every chess move, and every measured phrase of the piano. Now that the rooms are still, you notice it clearly. It is the faint, continuous vibration of the machinery below, carrying the entire floating hotel onward through the night. Chapter 8. Below Deck, Engines and Shipboard Systems. The final chord from the lounge has faded, yet another kind of music continues beneath the carpet. It is a low, steady vibration, felt more readily than heard. Through the soles of your shoes, it seems almost like a distant pulse. It comes from far below the quiet public rooms, where the liner's machinery works throughout the night. Passengers are not permitted to wander freely through these working spaces. Boiler rooms and engine rooms contain heat, steam, moving machinery, narrow passages, and equipment requiring experienced attention. Yet from a safe gallery, accompanied by a ship's officer, it is possible to look through an open doorway into a portion of this hidden world. The route downward passes through corridors much plainer than those above. Polished paneling gives way to painted steel. The carpets end. Protected cables and pipes run overhead, carrying steam, water, air, and electricity. Labels and colored markings help the crew distinguish one system from another. With every deck, the vibration becomes a little clearer. At the gallery rail, you pause. Below, two great reciprocating steam engines move with deliberate regularity. The word reciprocating simply means moving back and forth. Within each engine, steam pushes pistons through long, measured strokes. Piston rods slide, connecting rods turn, and the back-and-forth motion is transformed into rotation. That turning force passes onward to the propeller shafts. The machinery is immense, but its movement is controlled. Oiled surfaces catch the electric light. Gauges stand in orderly rows. Polished rails mark the walkways, and engineers pass between instruments with practiced care. They watch pressure, temperature, lubrication, and speed, making the adjustments needed to keep the engines running evenly. These engines receive their power from steam, and the steam begins in the boiler rooms. This liner is fired by coal. Coal is brought from storage bunkers to the furnaces where it burns beneath large boilers. The heat turns water into high-pressure steam. That steam travels through strong pipes toward the engines, carrying stored energy with it. Work in a coal-fired boiler room is hot, dirty, and physically demanding. Coal must be moved, fires must be maintained, ash must be cleared, and furnace conditions must be watched continuously. The comfort of the rooms above depends in part upon labor that is neither cool nor effortless. It is skilled work performed in difficult surroundings by crews whose watches cover every hour of the voyage. From the boilers, high-pressure steam enters the two reciprocating engines. It pushes their pistons and gives up part of its energy. Yet when it leaves those engines, the steam can still perform useful work. Rather than allow that remaining energy to go unused, this ship sends the exhaust steam onward to a low-pressure turbine. A turbine works differently from a piston engine. Steam flows across rows of blades arranged around a rotor and causes the rotor to turn. Its motion is continuous rather than back and forth. It does not sound like a modern jet engine. Here, enclosed deep within the liner, its presence is a sustained mechanical note, woven into the slower beat of the reciprocating engines. Together, the machinery turns 3 shafts and 3 propellers. The 2 large reciprocating engines drive 2 of the shafts, while the low-pressure turbine turns the 3rd. Beyond the engine spaces, the shafts extend through tunnels toward the stern. There, outside the steel hull, the propellers press against the water and carry the liner onward through the dark Atlantic. This combined arrangement belongs to our fictional ship. It was one solution among several used during the great age of ocean liners, rather than a system found aboard every vessel. Other ships relied entirely upon reciprocating engines. Some used turbines throughout. Shaft arrangements also differed. Many liners burned coal, while later vessels increasingly used oil. Marine engineering developed gradually, with each design balancing reliability, economy, speed, and the technology available at the time. A small bell sounds nearby. Its clear note belongs to an engine order telegraph. On the bridge high above, the officers do not operate these steam engines with a modern throttle. Instead, the telegraph carries instructions from the bridge to the engine room. Its handle can be moved to settings such as stop, dead slow, slow, half, or full, either ahead or astern. A matching pointer below displays the requested order. When a command arrives, the telegraph bell rings. An engineer moves the engine room handle to the corresponding position, acknowledging that the instruction has been received. The machinery is then adjusted accordingly. The telegraph does not itself open every valve or change the engine speed. It conveys the order to the people responsible for carrying it out. Tonight, the liner is already settled into its steady ocean passage. The telegraph remains at its chosen setting, while the engineers continue their watch. Propulsion is only one part of the work below. A liner of this size is also a small power station and a complete system of utilities. Far from land, it must produce light, circulate air, pump water, preserve food, carry messages, and operate countless pieces of equipment. In a generator room, steam-powered machinery produces electricity. The generators turn with a smooth, continuous hum. Their current travels through cables to shaded lamps in cabins, ceiling lights in corridors, and bright working lights in service areas. Electricity powers ventilation fans, pumps, elevators, service lifts, kitchen machinery, clocks, bells, communications, refrigeration, and equipment in the ship's workshops. The reading lamp beside an armchair, the cool storeroom beneath the galley, and the bell push in a cabin all depend upon this hidden network. Even the quiet clock at the end of a corridor belongs to the same larger chain. Water must also be carefully managed. Fresh water is carried in tanks and sent through its own system of pipes. Some historical liners used evaporating or distilling equipment to supplement their supplies, turning seawater into fresh water, although the exact arrangements varied from ship to ship. Other pumps move seawater through suitable cooling or service systems. Separate lines carry wastewater away. Still other pumps return boiler feed water, the water used to produce steam. These flows cannot simply mingle. Each follows its proper route through dedicated pipes, valves, and pumps, all under the crew's attention. Powered fans move air through ducts, while warm air heating serves the cabins and public rooms. The comfortable library, the fresh air entering a cabin vent, and the pleasant atmosphere of the dining saloon do not occur by accident. They are maintained by equipment working behind walls and beneath decks. The machinery is divided among many compartments, rather than gathered into a single enormous room. There are boiler rooms, reciprocating engine rooms, a turbine room, generator rooms, workshops, auxiliary machinery spaces, and long shaft tunnels. Steel divisions separate many of these areas, allowing the crew to organize the equipment and operate the vessel safely. Throughout the ship, work continues in watches and shifts. The engine department maintains propulsion and mechanical services. The deck department navigates the vessel and attends to its operation above. The steward's department cares for cabins, meals, and passenger rooms. No single person remains at a post for the entire voyage. One watch relieves another, and essential information is passed carefully from crew to crew. Individuals may rest, but the ship's attention remains continuous. From the gallery, the engines seem almost calm in their repetition. A piston rod descends, a wheel turns, a gauge needle rests near its appointed mark. Oil passes through a bearing. Somewhere beyond sight, a pump completes another measured cycle. Nothing here is effortless, and nothing is left unattended. Yet the many separate tasks have been brought into a coordinated rhythm. Boilers provide steam, engines and turbines turn the shafts, generators supply electricity, pumps move water, fans circulate air. Watch succeeds watch, and the liner proceeds steadily westward through the night. You leave the gallery rail and begin to climb again. With every deck, the machinery changes character. Its individual sounds gradually blend together. The sustained note of the turbine, the generator hum, the cycles of the pumps, and the deep beat of the pistons soften behind steel walls and heavy flooring. In a service corridor, they become a subdued vibration. Beneath the carpeted stairs, they grow quieter still. Higher up, shaded lamps glow peacefully, fresh air passes through hidden ducts, and a service lift waits behind its closed door. By the time you return to the passenger decks, the engines no longer seem like distant, mysterious giants. Their pulse belongs to a connected chain. Coal and water become steam, steam becomes motion, motion turns shafts and generators, electricity travels into lamps and bells, while pumps and fans quietly serve the rooms above. At every stage, trained hands observe, adjust, and maintain the system. The vibration rises gently through decks, corridors, and polished floors until it becomes the small, steady tremor noticed beside a cabin berth. And the chain of attention continues higher still. Far above the boilers, engines, and turning shafts, officers keep their own night watch. They study the course, observe the sea, and send their orders down through the vessel. The same quiet discipline links the warm mechanical spaces below with the darkened bridge above. Following the stairways upward, you leave the engine spaces behind. The air grows cooler. The corridors become still once more. Yet beneath every step, the familiar pulse remains, carrying the liner onward as you make your way toward the midnight bridge. Chapter 9. The Bridge at Midnight. The stairways rise through the quieter parts of the liner. Here, far above the boilers and engines, the air is cooler, and the subdued vibration beneath your feet seems more distant. A shaded lamp rests in a wall bracket. A clock marks the late hour with dark hands upon a pale face. Beyond a closed door, the Atlantic wind passes along the outer deck with a low, even murmur. The familiar pulse of the machinery follows you upward. It is softer here, yet still present, joining the warm mechanical spaces below with the darkened bridge above. The navigating bridge is positioned high and forward, where the officers have a broad view across the sea ahead. During daylight, this elevation reveals a wide sweep of water and sky. At midnight, the view is darker, but no less important. The horizon forms a faint boundary beneath the stars, while the ship's own lights are carefully controlled so that they do not disturb the watcher's night vision. You enter quietly, aware that this is a working place. Its calm is the calm of practiced concentration. The bridge extends across the forward part of the superstructure, with sheltered spaces near its center and open wings reaching toward either side. Wide windows face ahead. Their glass reflects only the dimmest interior glow, for the lamps have been shaded. The officers need darkness around them if they are to notice a distant light upon the water. Near the center stands the steering position. On some liners of this period, the quartermaster turns a familiar wooden or metal wheel. On others, the control may be smaller and connected to a system known as a telemotor. The name describes a device that transmits movement over a distance. Turning the bridge wheel does not require the quartermaster to move the immense rudder by physical strength alone. Instead, the telemotor carries the steering command to powerful machinery near the stern. There, the steering equipment moves the rudder through the sea. A small movement high on the bridge becomes a strong, deliberate movement far below and behind. A helm indicator shows the position of the rudder. The quartermaster watches the compass and keeps the liner upon the ordered heading. The task is not to turn the wheel continuously, but to make small corrections as wind, waves, and currents exert their influence. A little one way, then gently back toward the center. The ship responds slowly and steadily, its great length following a broad course through the water. The magnetic compass is housed in a protective stand called a binnacle. It is positioned where it can be read easily, its marked card showing the direction in which the ship is heading. The quartermaster follows it with patient attention, while the officer of the watch checks that the ordered course is being maintained. Nearby are the engine order telegraphs. Their polished handles and circular dials connect the bridge with the engine room. Around each dial are instructions such as standby, slow, half, or full, for movement ahead or astern. The engine order telegraph does not directly open a steam valve, nor does it control the engines by itself. It communicates an instruction. When the handle is moved on the bridge, a matching indicator sounds and changes position in the engine room. An engineer acknowledges the message by moving the engine room handle to the same setting. Trained hands below then make the necessary adjustments to the machinery. Tonight, the telegraph handle remains steady. The liner maintains her ocean speed, and no new command is required. Clocks, telephones, and speaking equipment help connect the bridge with other parts of the vessel. Messages can pass between the bridge and the engine room, the wireless room, the lookout positions, and officers elsewhere aboard. Controls for navigation lights and signals are also kept within reach. Each instrument has its place, chosen so that the night watch can proceed with little unnecessary movement. Close beside the bridge lies the chart room. Here, beneath carefully screened light, paper charts rest upon a broad table. A chart is more than a picture of the sea. It shows coastlines, depths, hazards, lights, and established routes. Across the open Atlantic, an officer marks the ship's progress in pencil, recording positions and drawing lines to represent the course and distance traveled. Out on the bridge, the officer of the watch remains responsible for the ship's immediate navigation. He monitors the course, position, speed, weather, visibility, nearby traffic, and the ordinary routine of the vessel. He listens for reports, checks the compass, and looks ahead into the darkness. The bridge is never left unattended. Officers work in rotating watches throughout the day and night. One group takes responsibility while another rests, and at the appointed hour, the watch changes. Information is passed carefully from one officer to the next. The course being steered, the latest position, the weather, any expected lights or vessels, and the standing instructions are all clearly understood before the outgoing watch stecks away. Quartermasters assist with steering and other bridge duties. Elsewhere, lookouts maintain their own patient vigil. A lookout may stand in an elevated position, such as a crow's nest upon the foremast, where the view is wide and the ship's structure does not obstruct the water ahead. Warmly dressed against the Atlantic air, the lookout scans slowly from side to side, searching for navigation lights, distant ships, or anything else that should be reported. Most of the time, there is little to announce, yet the value of a lookout lies in uninterrupted attention. The sea is observed not hurriedly, but continuously. Minute after minute, the gaze passes across the same dark horizon, ready to notice the smallest change. Long before electronic satellite navigation, an ocean liner's position was established through several methods used together. Officers began with a known point, then followed compass headings and measured speed. They noted how much time had passed and calculated how far the vessel should have traveled. This process is called dead reckoning. Despite its curious name, it is a practical estimate. Beginning with the last known position, the navigator considers the course, speed, and elapsed time. Allowances are also made for the effects of wind or current. The resulting position is then plotted upon the chart. Whenever conditions permit, this estimate can be checked by observation. Near shore, landmarks, lighthouses, and other known points provide useful bearings. On the open ocean, navigators turn their attention toward the sky. By measuring the height of the sun, moon, a star, or a planet above the horizon, and comparing that observation with accurate time and prepared tables, an officer can help establish the ship's position. Each observation becomes another piece of information, supporting the course already marked upon the chart. Compass headings, measured speed, elapsed time, charted positions, and celestial observations all work together. None is treated casually. Each is recorded, compared, and interpreted by trained navigators. Wireless communication offers another valuable aid. Time signals received through the wireless room allow clocks and navigational timepieces to be checked. Navigational information may also arrive by wireless when available, yet every signal still requires careful interpretation. Instruments support the navigator, but they do not replace attention, experience, and judgment. Time aboard an eastbound or westbound liner has its own gentle rhythm. As the vessel travels across lines of longitude, the ship's clocks are adjusted to keep ship's time reasonably close to the changing local time. The adjustment may be made in small steps rather than all at once. Passengers receive notice when their watches should be advanced or set back. Meanwhile, the vessel's working clocks are altered according to a planned routine. A change that might seem simple in a single room must be carried through a floating community of cabins, dining rooms, offices, workspaces, and watch stations. Tonight, one bridge clock shows midnight. Elsewhere, navigational records preserve the precise time needed for observations and calculations. Around the clocks, the watch continues without ceremony. Through the forward windows, there is only open, peaceful water. A few stars stand clear above the horizon. The bow, mostly hidden below, parts the Atlantic with a soft whiteness that appears and vanishes beside the hull. Far behind, the wake continues as a pale road through the darkness. The officer checks the compass once more. The quartermaster holds the ordered course. Somewhere above and forward, the lookout continues a slow survey of the horizon. Below, engineers maintain the steady power requested through the telegraph. The bridge and engine room are separated by many decks, yet they are joined in purpose. One determines the direction, the other provides the motion. Between them extend telegraphs, telephones, indicators, and a shared routine of careful watches. You remain for a while near the shadowed doorway, listening to the faint movement of air around the bridge windows. There are no raised voices. A pencil touches paper in the chart room. A quiet footstep crosses the deck. The compass card rests beneath its glass, trembling almost imperceptibly as the liner maintains her heading. Beyond the windows, the sea appears vast and still. The bridge gives no sense of hurry, even though the vessel continues to cover mile after mile. Progress is measured here by headings, clock hands, penciled marks, and the patient observation of sea and sky. A glance at the helm indicator confirms the rudder's position. Another glance at the compass confirms the course. Far away, a point of light may rest briefly upon the horizon, before fading again. The lookout remains attentive. The officer keeps watch. The quartermaster holds the wheel with relaxed, practiced hands. Beneath them all, the engines continue their measured work. The vibration rises through the vessel, quieter with every deck, until it reaches the bridge as little more than a faint tremor. It passes through the floor, through the chart table, and through the binnacle beneath the compass. The entire liner seems gathered into that steady pulse. At last, you look beyond the bow, where the stars meet the dark Atlantic. The ship moves onward beneath them, guided by compass, clock, chart, calculation, and patient human attention. Leaving the bridge to its midnight watch, you step toward the open deck. Behind you, the officers continue their quiet routine. The sea and sky widen in every direction, while the liner follows her unseen path through the peaceful night.